Greetings and salutations, world. This is Robert Kandell, 6 p.m., Monday, November 6th, with Arielle Brown on 6 vulnerable conversations between a man and a woman, a man being me, played by me, a woman played by Arielle. And here we are. How are you doing tonight, Del?
I'm doing really well. I hopped on the call and was feeling a lot of kind of like bubbly anticipation in my body. And I realized that I actually really enjoy that feeling in these circumstances.
Sort of like a soda pop bubble in the bod?
It's more kind of like this, like thick molasses, but where the bubbles kind of push through. That transmit. It's like the bubbles that
molasses bubbles.
Yeah, it's like thicker.
Two words I usually don't go together as molasses and bubbles. But what are you going to do?
Came together in my mind.
Exactly. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, we're here this week again. We're here for 6 weeks. This is season 1 of 6 vulnerable conversations between a man and a woman. And this week's show is around flirting, attraction, and vulnerability. And I had a lot of fun. We actually prepped for this one a little bit. Had a lot of fun kind of putting together kind of a list of topics and questions. So I'm very excited to see where the show goes.
Yeah, this is such a fun place to play. Of like, how do we actually, I was just having a conversation with a man today around how do we play with desire in a way where we give full permission for the fact that we experience desire and we experience attraction and allow it to transmit in a way that doesn't bowl the person over, and simultaneously we don't repress it. So finding that sweet spot where we let people feel our desire just enough so they want to lean in and explore some more.
That very challenging, sweet spot. I think that might be a big part of the conversation today is what the F is the sweet spot.
Well, I definitely have an opinion about that.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
That might take us off of our...
That's right.
Okay.
It's a combination of masculine and feminine communication styles. So I'll hold the masculine pole today, even though I was totally feminine last week, and you can play the feminine. Well, that's next week. Anyway, so what's your sweet spot? Let's talk about that first.
Oh my God. What's my my sweet spot is where I'm really in my body. Like the biggest thing that I've noticed that keeps people out of having really successful flirtational experiences that we're too focused on what the other person's experience is. So what I've found, what particularly attracts men to me is the more that I'm in like my body, it doesn't matter if I like say something that's totally connected or just like look at them in a certain way. It's something about my awareness of how I'm feeling in my own body. That's what really magnetizes the person to me.
Well, that would be the magic word, embodiment, which is a big buzzword these days. And I totally agree. Because men are often in their strategy mind. I read this in a book. I learned this in a class. And this is the right methodology to get the girl is follow step A, follow step B, follow step C. And they're in their head, but they're not thinking, and they're not feeling their body, and they're not picking up on the many subtle cues that women are showing.
Yeah. Can I share an experience that I had recently?
Oh, yes, you can.
Awesome. So I recently went out on a date with this man where I knew that I had a certain level of permission to just be completely honest with him and that he could handle it because of previous conversations. And I had been kind of stressed out before going on this date. And then we got together. He was already at the bar. I went and sat at the bar next to him, and he just kind of went right into just like, how are you doing? Like, how was your day? Like all these kind of like nice questions. But what I was finding is that his questions were making me more and more anxious in my body. And I actually decided to stop the conversation. And I was like, hey, I'd actually love if we could go sit at a table. And we got to the table, and then I looked at him and I was like, I actually don't really have a desire to have any type of like surface level conversation with you right now. I'd actually love to just look at each other and just feel each other. And that was one of the most like, I'm sharing this with you because it's like, you don't need to speak to catalyze attraction. And for me, being honest and saying what's true in the moment, even if it completely disrupts like the direction things were going, is one of my ways of flirting.
Disruption, flirting, two words often also not in the same sentence. And also brevity. Brevity is one of my education for men. Brevity. If you can say something in 7 words, do not use 27. And silence is also very sexy in the right circumstance. Indeed. And how good of you to be honest. Like how unusually good. That was such a kind thing to do to that man, instead of him trying to figure out, like mentally doing all the gymnastics of why isn't she responding, or why isn't she smiling, or why does it feel a little off. You actually told him the truth. That's huge.
It's so important, because what I've found is whenever I'm not being honest with men, like whenever their flirtation is not working, if I don't do something to change it, to an extent, I just feel like I'm placating them. And if I'm placating them, that means that I'm not fully respecting them. And if I'm not fully respecting them, then I'm probably not going to want to sleep with them.
Placating is kind of a nice word. Let's use the word coddling.
Okay.
Yeah. Placating is sort of kind of nice. Coddling is just like, yeah, I like it. So how to go from there? Once you express your desire to stare at each other, did you start to feel your body? Did he start to feel his body?
Oh my God. It was really, it was just a really beautiful experience in its whole. And it how did it go from there? How it went from there was we had a really delicious dinner, and then we parted ways. And the server that served us actually came up to me like the next day and was like, just so you know, there was this beautiful moment where you looked back at him and he wasn't looking at you. And then as soon as you turned your head, he looked back, but you weren't looking at him. And we both parted ways thinking that the evening was over.
Yeah.
And then he wound up texting me and having a conversation. And then we wind up going back to his Airbnb together and having like a really beautiful conversation. And
any nookie? No nookie?
Okay, since we're being honest, no, it was beautiful. This kind of plays into last week's conversation. I got really clear on what I wanted the container to be. So the container for the evening was no physical penetration with his penis. And no kissing.
All right. So was that mean sort of a rubbing body thing going on?
Oh my goodness. It was oh my goodness, we're going here.
Well, 6 vulnerable conversations between a man and a woman.
So no, actually it was, he's really into, one of his interests is BDSM. So the beginning of the evening actually began with him, putting me up on a pillar and just playing with me a little bit. And then he could feel the moment where I started to get overwhelmed, or like he attuned to the fact that I was peaking. And then he decided to take me down and brought me to the bed and took the cuffs off, and then just like proceeded to pleasure me throughout most of the evening. And it was just
that is a good man. He's a good man.
Very good man. Wow, you just made me super nervous and uncomfortable.
Turned on.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
Oh my God, we're flirting so much with each other.
We are totally. This is all flirting.
Let's get back to the script.
Okay, everybody shake. Give me a little shake. Okay, so the script. Our script is so boring compared to this conversation, though.
If you want
I'm just having a visual. I'm just having a visual of you with your handcuffs on, and
It was a really beautiful experience because I'm kind of an intensity junkie, and I'm so used to kind of the hard, fast.
Shocking.
Oh, Rob. But it was beautiful because once I slowed down enough, I actually realized how, it's like there was so much sensation going on that I couldn't feel a lot of anything. And there was something really amazing about him just realizing that and slowing things down and taking me down, that I realized how much more I can slow down in those moments, and just how much sensation is there, like how much there is to feel. And I think this kind of ties back to the flirtation piece, Rob, where like if we were actually in our bodies, like really syncing up to the person across from us and just like feeling what's going on in my body as I'm also like syncing up and feeling like what's going on with this person, it actually takes very little to create connection
Mm-hmm.
and create arousal.
It's true. It's totally true. I mean, I think that's the great mystery that, for me as a man, confuses the shit out of me when I was starting. It was like, no, flirting is verbal, or flirting is touching, or flirting, but you're just saying it's not about the thing. It's about the presence. It's about the energetics. It's about the noticing. And you can flirt just with your energy by leaning forward. Is he going to kiss me? And then leaning back. Why didn't he kiss me? I mean, there's so many fun ways you can play with those subtle energetic cues, but no one teaches this stuff. And so you gave that guy a great lesson in the beginning of the date, because you're like, shh, I don't want to talk the small stuff. Let's just get synced up energetically.
Yeah. And I feel like ultimately, like the simplest piece of advice that I can give anyone who experiences social anxiety or like a fear of like not knowing how to engage, like the simplest piece of advice is just like, get really curious about the other person. Like just, like what's going on in them? Like what, like just wanting to know. And it instantly creates this chemistry.
Get curious, one, for sure. And two, get out of your head and get out of your ego. Am I doing this right? 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 Will definitely kill the energetic, flirtatious vibe.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn that lesson?
The hard way, by making about 1,000 mistakes. I was so numb and dumb when I started this world. I mean, granted, it was 1998. I was 28 years old, but I was so numb and dumb. I was so in my head. I was like this masterful thinker, plotter, planner for like business. Like I could build a project plan like no other. I could build a computer system down to the finest detail. I was so anal, and I applied the same technology to women and didn't work so good. Matter of fact, it was, it was, I was married and I had a woman and I was nice, but the sex life, not very exciting. Because I was thinking too much, and I was, worrying too much. I was worrying too much, one, that I was hurting her, that she was this fragile little bird, and my great manliness was going to overcome her because that was my arrogance, my chauvinism, and my misogynistic nature. But really, it was I had all my attention on myself, and I couldn't feel what was happening for her.
Whoa, that piece about you were too worried about hurting her or overwhelming her.
Well, that's what, I was taught. I mean, women were weak and lazy, and, they could be broken. And, I was a New York Jew. That's, that was the primal education I had, was you had to kind of dance around the females because they couldn't handle you. And that's how I treated women. And that's why sex was so mechanical.
Interesting. So when you finally had this shift, this shift of like women aren't these weak beings, how did that change how you flirted?
Well, everything. I mean, I also have to say that realization to becoming a good flirt was a good 5-year process, maybe 4.5. But it was an extended process. It wasn't like I, saw the flash of like, oh, pretty much everything I knew about women was wrong. That was the first thing. The second thing was dedicating myself to a practice of understanding women, and that really took 4 or 5 years for me to fully figure out. And then flirting was the baseline of the flirting was equal meets equal, player meets player, God meets God, spy versus spy, whatever it, like, how you want to say it. But I just saw like, oh, this is a fun game. And women, I found, really like to play deeply and go up and have different experiences. And once I figured that out, then I was like, oh, I just want to play.
I feel that. I want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think we're doing this, video conferences?
Yeah. Like
it's a way of flirting and playing.
So like, describe to me like the game of flirting with you.
The game? Well, the first thing is that after 18 years, after the first 4 years of totally being a rookie and talking like flirting like this, I really spent 18 years to learn A few important things. The first is that I think I'm awesome. Like, I just fully know I'm a truly awesome human being. And I don't say that in an arrogant fashion, though it may sound like it, but I really, in a self-loving way. And so when you flirt with me, I already have inside my body a huge wellspring of approval and self-validation and belief in myself that I'm not looking to you to validate me, which confuses a lot of women, because a lot of women are used to guys on the grab or the scarce, pouncing, like the Tigger and Calvin and Hobbes, the Calvin and Hobbes pouncing. They're just used to the pouncing, and I'm not a pouncer, which really confused a lot of women. It's like, what's going on with this guy? Why isn't he pouncing? It's really weird.
No, you're flirting. I like your flirting. How would I describe your flirting? It's like, oh, it's you throw out these little lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a little like bobber on there or something like that. I like the way that you flirt.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So the first thing is I really think I'm awesome. The second is I truly know that women are powerful. And that took, like I said, a long time to figure out. And so I don't have to play safe in terms of she's broken. And at the same time, I have to ensure that the container I'm setting has the appropriate amount of safety for that specific woman.
What does that look like?
Well, it's different for each woman.
Okay, how about for me?
For you?
Yeah.
You just need to know that there's a doorway out. You just need to know that there's an ejector button at any point. So if a guy's trying to hold on to you, that's pretty much the end of the flirtation. So you just need I need to ensure that that at any point you can say pause, stop, or exit.
It's actually very true, because this current lover I'm exploring with, one of the things I love about him is like he's constantly like, if you change your mind at any point, like even if I'm out there and I'm 5 minutes away and you don't want to hang out anymore, that's fine.
Yep.
And it's actually amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is such a key, and maybe I'm unique in that desire as a woman, but like my experience is that women can have a lot of challenge expressing boundaries and desires.
Yeah.
And while it would be nice in an ideal world if we just felt completely secure and able and confident to speak our voice and our truth and our desires in any moment, it's so nice to meet men who can like feel and are sensitive enough to a woman's experience that they can like be like, here you go, like here's this bowl for you to express your desires, and I really created this bowl for you to feel the permission and the freedom to do that, and I'm also not going to be needy or annoying and like asking you every moment if you're okay.
Right.
It's a very subtle, like I really respect the fact that it is not easy for men to find just the right balance of flirting so that it's like sexy and at the same time like aware and considerate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't want to be anyone's mother.
No.
At all. No. No.
That.
Some women do. There is a percentage of women that do, but most women, want to have kids and be the kid's mother, and then have a partner and not be the partner's mother. They don't want a third child. They want a partner. So you don't want to be anyone's mother.
No.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I had an interesting one come up. I'm curious about your perspectives on age differences in flirting.
Okay.
Because I know for me, it took me a while to be in approval of the fact that I just tend to be attracted to and attract older men.
Okay.
And there's all these taboos in our culture around age gaps.
Well, define what older is so that people know.
Older, I'd say maybe anything more than like 15 years older or something like that.
That's significant, yeah.
That's,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, 10 doesn't even feel like a lot. That just feels like,
yeah,
meh, decade.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, I'm actually curious about like what your experiences has been around finding approval of like, I'm going to say like flirting with women who are younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
And like if it feels different to flirt with women your age as opposed to people who are younger than you.
Well, I have a long history with this, as you well know. I started an organization called One Taste, which was a sexual research community. And during my really 12-year tenure, from like 32 to 44, I probably flirted with over 1,000 women, 2,000, 5,000 women. It was nonstop. And the age range was humongous, to women 20 years my junior, to women 10, 15, 20 years older. So I did have the age range. So here's something I discovered. The first was that the age sometimes didn't make a difference, because women my age or older sometimes acted like teenagers, and sometimes women 10 or 15 or 20 years younger than me felt more old than I did. Mm-hmm. So the age itself was only one marker of it. The second thing was that I had a lot of shame about it, about my attraction for women half my age. And it, I would feel the attraction, and then they would come to me and start flirting with me. And I, sometimes I would like hold it in because I was worried about the social ramifications of it or how I'd be perceived. Now, remember, this is just flirting. We're just talking about flirting. And then I got to the point where, like, this is a human being, and I can assess each case separately and not diminish them because they're younger than I am or older than I am. Just look at each woman specifically and see how it felt. And from that, there was a freedom that I felt in my body that I could just be myself and see what happened. So it was difficult in the beginning and then eased up once I started to see the person, not their numeric age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. And then, there's, my partner is 14 years younger than I am. Mm. And, that was a big thing for her mom, like a really big thing. Like she was very nervous about that. And then, but I don't perceive Morgan younger than I am. I mean, slightly, obviously physically she looks different, but like emotionally and power-wise, like we just feel like old spirits together. So there's never my thought, oh, she's younger. Though I do tease her mercilessly about some of the age differences. Like I was in high school when she was born, or, like when I was in college, she was in kindergarten. I mean, there's those conversations that are fun, but really from an emotional point of view, we are purely equal.
Mm. Yeah, it's been, I've noticed for myself, there was a while where I was like with older men, mm-hmm. and I usually am with older men, though, mm-hmm. by the way, I'm totally open to being with a man my age, though I find that, here's another spot. Okay. I find that I'm rarely, what's the word? Not confronted, but approached by men my age.
You're rarely confronted. Okay.
I'm rarely approached by men my age.
Okay.
And it's really started to get me curious as to like, what could I be putting out that would have it be that like men my age aren't approaching me? Or perhaps that I'm just able to see like older men's flirtation in a way that I'm not able to see younger men's flirtation.
Or maybe you're just blocking, energetically pushing away the younger men.
They're kind of terrifying.
They're terrifying, or you're terrifying?
It makes me think of my college years when I was just like terrified of men. Like there's this part of me that's still terrified of like teenage boys.
Well, how old are you? I mean, can I ask how old you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm 30.
You're okay. So okay. Well,
go ahead.
So like 30s, like I didn't know who I was in my 30s. I was, 30s was the beginning of me fully knowing who I am. Like teens, I was, whatever, going through high school. And then 20s was really a self-development. And I didn't even know who I was until I was 30. Now, the millennials are much better at knowing who they are than I was, but I'm just using myself as an example. So in the 30s is when I first started to get a clue of who I was. And it wasn't really until I hit the 40s that I liked myself. Like it took me 40 years to turn the corner and a lot of self-development work to actually like who I was in the world. You, my friend, you demand someone who is empowered and embodied. And for men without training or out doing the work, you must just look like this big mountain of energy and power that must scare the shit out of them. You probably scare the shit out of them.
I'm trying to find ways to flirt with younger men that actually invites them to like elicit like what they want.
Why do you want to do that?
Because why do you want to do that?
Do you think you should?
It's not that I should. It's just like, you know, there are some younger men who are super attractive.
Okay.
And I'm kind of curious.
Okay.
Like I'm
Do you want just some nookie?
I want to have the experience of a young man my age who's willing to actually stay anchored in a conversation and not like talk to me one moment and then act like I don't exist or not know how to engage with me the next.
Okay.
Like there's a part of me that resists like I want to feel like there is a man my age who can just be like in it
Present.
and not run away. Yeah, and not run away.
Yeah, that's a tough call for a 30-year-old guy because he lives in a society that doesn't show him the way to find that. And so, especially now in the 30s, and you know, God bless the Tinder revolution, which has fucked up everything in terms of dating. You know, like guys are really lost, and so you're asking a 30-year-old guy to find and be secure in himself, and guys don't have that training these days.
Well, maybe it's that I want to invite men my age into exploring that.
Okay. Well, maybe they'll watch this video and you'll be hit up with some interesting propositions. We could have a little contest, a six vulnerable conversation contest to get Arielle some nookie from a 30-year-old guy.
Oh, goodness gracious. That sounds like an interesting game. Okay. Maybe let's just start with a flirtatious conversation. Oh my God, that's so much fun. Yeah. I want to invite people to like flirt with me artfully.
Okay, so be careful what you ask for. There's a lot of guys who want to flirt, and you're a hottie. So
right now I'm turned on by that, and just know that I might say no, or I might like make an adjustment. Okay. But I'm curious.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's get to some more questions.
Okay.
All right. Arielle, I got some questions for you.
Okay, let's go.
What makes someone... No, we already talked about that. Okay, do pickup lines work?
If they're being ironic.
Okay. What does that mean?
It means, like, to me, what'll turn me on about a man using a pickup line is if he knows that the fact that he's using a pickup line in itself is cliche.
Got it.
Yeah. Like there's like double, like I find double layers of humor or wit or like being cliche for the purpose of being witty. Like I love that. Like that makes me lean in because I know a person likes to play with words and kind of like go into the deeper insinuations of things. I love insinuation. It's one of my favorite ways to flirt. So
a clever, ironical, witty pickup line has a high chance of success.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to make fun of yourself at the same time.
I feel like I do that even when I don't try.
Okay, fair enough. When I was in Philadelphia, I was a bartender, and I had a partner. On Saturday night, she was beautiful, and she would collect pickup lines because it was like nonstop. And it was Philadelphia in the 90s, right? And so guys were blah, and she would like had a book where she wrote down all these pickup lines, and she would collect all the good ones, and then she would torture the guy mercilessly because it was so flagrant. This is the one she liked the most. Some guy said to her, "Hey, where's your spacesuit?" And she goes, "What?" She says, "Where's your spacesuit?" She goes, "What?" She said, "Where's your spacesuit? Because you're out of this world." That wouldn't work for you? If it was ironical, witty, and
oh, like.
Yeah, I know. It's Philadelphia in the 90s. What are you going to do? All right, next question. Okay. If I saw you at a bar and wanted to strike up a conversation with you, what would be your preferred way? What would be the best way?
Ooh. Come up to me and ask a genuinely like curious and insinuative question.
Oh, do you have an
Yeah.
example?
Um, God. It's like it's more the energy of it.
Mm,
It's like acknowledging that there's attraction there in like
yeah,
the energy of what you say. And ask me a question that like makes me kind of like dig down deep.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I was absolutely horrible in bars when I was younger. I was so full of fear. I like couldn't. Yeah, no, I was horrible at the pickup lines.
You know, I think just confidence.
Yeah,
Like not stupidity,
yeah,
but like confidence and just a willingness to express desire without throwing it all on me.
without bombing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
don't
mean, that's really the main thing. It's like that's why pickup lines don't work is because they're hackneyed in someone else's. You got to dig deep inside of yourself to make an authentic, interactive request for connection.
How do you like women to flirt with you, Rob?
I I think my favorite thing is intellectual pursuit, intellectual play.
Mm.
So now 47 years old, happily engaged to the lovely Morgan, who just came on the line, and I'm in this place now where it's really an intellectual. So I had an experience a couple of weeks ago where I just talked for a woman for hours. We were actually on plant medicine, but I was talked for hours, and the intellectual play, just like I don't know how to describe it. It was just like we were like playing a game of chess, but it was an emotional, energetic chess, and that was the most fun. Was because it wasn't so much a physical thing. It was just a mental back and forth, and she could keep up with me, and that was super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of like so especially since I'm engaging in the polyamorous open relating world now.
Hmm.
It's like I love the feeling of knowing that desire and attraction is mutually present,
Mm.
whether it's verbally acknowledged or not verbally acknowledged,
Yeah.
and allowing it to be in the ring and in the room without having to act on it immediately.
Right.
Like there's something that like evokes the juices and is just like this arousing thing of knowing that it's present but not having to act on it.
Totally.
Like, especially as a woman who like I want to know that I can like flirt and play with a man and that like my flirtation doesn't mean that he's immediately going to try and stick his cock in me.
Yeah.
And like there's something very like with one of my current lovers, for example, like we haven't even had penetrative sex yet.
Okay.
And it's such an attractive thing to know that a man can like be totally turned on and satisfied without like needing to come or like needing to have his own form of like release, so to speak.
Right. Well, that goes back to the self-validating muscle. Because if a guy thinks he's only successful if he does have some sexual experience, if that's his goal-based outcome, and a woman's not doing that, the guy will walk away from the interaction thinking he's a failure. Because that's what guys are taught. It's the pursuit and the goal and the hunting and the notches on the belt. And that's how guys manage success. But if a guy has it inside him just to know that it's the experience or it's the game or it's getting rejected really well, which is fun, then the whole life, you don't demand from women some result. You actually offer play, and in the play, there's no specific outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I love flirting, because I just like to play. I just like the intellectual pursuit. I'm not necessarily even looking for any outcome. And I'm very aligned with my relationship goals. And so to ensure that, I keep my integrity and keep my agreements, that means that I can play and flirt and bring all the energy back to my relationship, which is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my particular setup. Yeah. But But I don't need anything. That's the thing. Like a lot of guys, maybe my situation would be frustrated because of A, B, and C. But for me, it's just the opportunity to play.
Okay, so here's like a deeper thing that I want to speak to, and then we can go to another question because we're staying structured, not. So what I would love, which I just think that would make flirtation so much better, is that beneath the desire to have sex, there was just a desire to actually feel a connection with this person. It's like the idea of, can you be my brother before you're my lover? And what I find is that like so much flirtation, it's like we're not actually, what am I trying to say here? I wish that if we, oh my God, I'm going into an uncomfortable spot. It makes me sad and it makes me trust men less if I feel like they want to have sex with me, but wouldn't actually want to have any type of connection outside of the sex. And I haven't so much experienced that like over the past few years because I've been so committed to like radical intimacy and creating really deeply intimate relationships. But in college, I just remember that flirtation was so terrifying because it's like if the flirtation didn't go well, I'd be like avoided for the rest of the 4 years. And it's just a shame to me.
Yeah. Well, two things popped in my head. Thank you for sharing that vulnerable feeling.
Yeah, it's like the part of me that's still the wounded college kid.
Oh. Yeah, I can see that in you. Two things. So first, guys, I think actually want intimacy more than sex. We advertise that we want sex, but underneath it, I think truly what they're really looking for is deep connection and intimacy and validation from a woman. But what we've been taught that sex is the penultimate form of intimacy and validation. That's the miscue. So those college guys actually did want to be connected to you, but they played the card of sex because that's all they knew. And when you denied them or rejected them or didn't show any interest, then they thought, oh, she doesn't want to be my friend.
This just makes me annoyed.
I know. Well, that happens in the 20s. Though I think these millennials are much smarter than we were, to be honest. But that's a whole. You're not a millennial, are you?
I am a millennial.
You're a millennial. Okay, you're at the tail end, or yeah. So I think actually this next generation is going to be much better at this particular thing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like the thing, like for me, my college thesis was on like how we use text messaging as a way to actually avoid intimacy. And I think it could go either way because so many millennials are utilizing like disconnected forms of communication in order to convey really kind of personal and vulnerable truths. And in a way, I feel like it makes it easier for us to be able to avoid the intimacy that vulnerability facilitates.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah. I had another thought. It's okay. It passed. Okay, so yeah, I think that's guys really want to be intimate. We want to be connected to a woman. We want to be connected. I'm rewriting this essay that I did. I had a good friend of mine, Robin Rinaldi, help me edit it. And she said, men actually, their desire is to be connected to the feminine. Like we're so stuck in our masculine that we want to be connected to the feminine and we think sex is the direction for it. And to your point, I think another way to flirt with you is to lead with friendship and play. Like leading with sex with you for all those 30-year-olds who are going to play the Arielle flirting game, campaign, lead with friendship, lead with showing up.
And I still lead with friendship and I want to and I want to know, I want to feel the possibility there. I want to feel the attraction.
Yeah. Well, guys have to lead with that. That's the second part of it, or third part of it, is vulnerable. That's the hard thing for guys, is that we're so taught that if we're weak, if we show vulnerability, we're weak. Or if we show vulnerability and we're rejected, it means something about us, that we often lead with the catcall or lead with the drive-by flirting. Or the text message. It's true. Text messaging is perfect at drive-by flirtings. You just kind of drop the flirt and move on. So it's because we're scared to lead with vulnerability and be rejected.
And I don't really know how to help in those circumstances because um, I want to help men feel more comfortable in being vulnerable, and
Mm,
I don't want to have to teach them.
right.
So how can women like how can women invite men to feel more comfortable being vulnerable?
Continue to tell them that it's okay to be vulnerable. Counteract, re-educate them. Tell your stories. Say this is what worked for me in the past, or this is what turns me on. You know, do talks with crazy guys about how to be vulnerable. I mean, just like educate. It's all about re-education. I mean, I was re-educated. This has been the 18 years and the 4 years of being numb and dumb. You know, it's been a total re-education of how to flirt and be vulnerable with women. It's humongous and was really challenging because I had to go against all those stories that I grew up with.
Ugh, it's kind of terrifying, Rob. Like it's so interesting being on this call right now because it's like I'm feeling so seen and all
Mm,
the places where like the dating and the flirtation process is a very vulnerable one.
mm-hmm,
I think I just need to name that because I'm
mm,
on camera having this conversation and realizing I'm getting hit in all these little places.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of lonely people out there too. I mean, I think that's the hardest part for me. And God bless, I've lived a blessed life. I've always been surrounded by people. I met Morgan at the perfect time and developed this relationship that I'm so grateful for. And there's so many lonely people out there. I was in a gas station somewhere and like buying a bottle of water, and this guy came in and was like, yeah, I'm watching the Dodgers tonight. It's me, I'm a young guy, like 30, 35 years old. I'm watching the Dodgers game. It's me and my dog, watching the Dodgers game. And I was just like, I want to be like, come on, buddy, come to my house. We don't have a TV. I don't even like the Dodgers, but like, come on. Like, there's a lot of lonely people on there and it's getting worse.
Well, and like the sad thing is like the toolkit that we're given to like help ourselves in those situations is like we're literally told that the last thing you want to do is be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it comes to like winning at dating, winning at flirtation, I feel like probably 90% of the population, the general population, is walking around the belief of I need to change who I am in order to be attractive to this person.
Right. To be
And what
cool.
I've found over and over again is that in any moment where I'm feeling insecure, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm with someone who actually desires to connect with me, because if I'm with someone who actually isn't an ally,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm probably not going to be vulnerable. But if I'm with someone where it's like they've consciously made a choice to spend time with me because they want to get to know me more, in those moments where I'm feeling insecure, what I found the simplest thing to do to create more intimacy is say like, whoa, like I'm feeling nervous right now,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm feel like just naming the set, like naming the experience and kind of taking down the mask that we're trying to wear to act like we have it all figured out. Like in my experience has been one of the most connective things.
True. That's the counterintuitive thing. It's, our buddy Ken Blackman likes to say, it's like the most attractive thing about a man is truly who he is. But when we put on those facades and the peacock and the hats and the boas and the fancy outfits, and we try to act like someone we're not, like you might pick up a lady and have a night of sex, but that's not what you truly want. You want someone to know you. You want to be intimate. And, when we get into a relationship, what do? We hide parts of ourselves. 30, 60, 90 days, we're so tight. We're so contracted about the truth. And then after 90 days, when we've hooked them, we finally start to reveal who we are because we're so afraid of being rejected for our truest intimate parts. That's the cancer of society. And that's where, that's my thesis is like, how do you live unhidden? How do you live bold? How do you have faith that if you're truly who you are, you'll magnetize and attract the right people into your field?
Yeah, exactly. And not just the right people, but like the right experiences, the right
Mm,
opportunities. It's everything. And one question you put on the sheet that I love, which feels perfect here, is there such a thing as too much vulnerability?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I actually think that there is.
Mm.
And it has to do, to me, with the intention behind why you're sharing and how much you're sharing.
Mm.
Like, I know for myself, back in my serial monogamy days,
Mm-hmm.
I would use radical vulnerability as just like, I'm going to share everything about myself that I can,
Mm-hmm.
as a way to kind of kind of force this person to fall in love with me, by thinking that the more that this person knows about me all at once, the deeper our relationship is.
Mm.
But it wasn't actually coming from a place of like, why am I sharing this? Like, am I actually attuned to the connection that I'm having with this person? Or am I just dumping and spilling because I have such a desire to have a relationship with someone that maybe if I just share all of who I am, they'll want to be with me?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's similar to how I engaged in sex for like all of my college experience, which was, oh, I want a man to fall in love with me, so I'm going to have sex with him.
Mm.
And making the assumption that if I have sex with a man, like that means that we're in like a relationship, or it means that it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a point of suffering for me for like so much of my younger 20s, because like it's like kind of the worst case scenario you can set yourself up with. Like, you want to fall in love so bad, and in order to do that, you try and reveal all of yourself all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I felt rejected, it was like, oh, well, it must be me, because all I did was share everything about me.
Mm. Well, I think that comes down to what we talked about with flirting. It's just paying attention. It's just paying attention. And when you overshare or over vulnerable, it means you're not paying attention to your listener.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of attention. And there's some form of, I hear some kind of scarcity there as well. It's like, I have to get this out. I have to get this out. Hot potato. I have to get this out. And if I don't, it means X, Y, and Z. But, you know, with me and Morgan, it's like, we know we have a lifetime together. And it's so much fun to share at a pace that both of us can listen. Now, we're both very big appetites for each other's evolution and to hear about it. And it just takes paying attention. And there's sometimes I'm just like, you know, I'm tired, I just want to watch a movie. And she knows that. And, you know, she'll interrupt me 17 times because that's what she likes to do. But, you know, at the same time, I'm always happy to listen to her. The point is like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.
And similar to what you were speaking to with like, you know, like to really like as a man flirting, one of the best skills you've cultivated is to really like know your excellence, like know your amazingness. And it's been similar for me. Like the more that I have really connected to the fact that I'm an incredibly magnetic, powerful, like rich, dynamic, intelligent, beautiful woman, it's like the more I've actually found turn on in like pacing and allowing myself to, I don't know if it's necessarily be mysterious, but like allow like trust in the unfoldment and trust in my magnetism enough that like what I am offering, that the man who is connecting with me is going to continue to step forward. And that's one of the biggest conversations that I have with female coaching clients and just women around attraction, is that women have been so conditioned and cultured to associate finding their Prince Charming with the most important thing, that it can kind of become just this, like, it becomes the fixation. And it can be this thing, if I just give all of myself, like, how could they say no? And instead it's just like a perspective shift where we actually like invite the man to take steps towards us, as opposed to feeling like we need to put ourselves entirely in their reality, which is like the conversation that I keep having over and over with women, is like, I like lose connection to myself and I jump into this person's world, and then like it all falls apart.
Right.
So how do we build?
Well, my words for that is just be matched. Like if a man isn't showing up, don't show up, let him go. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if you have a certain bar, a certain standard, your bottom lines of what you need for a man to show up, and then you show up and they don't show up, well, you can learn that this guy maybe doesn't want to show up, or maybe doesn't have the capacity to show up. So then you can educate him. Like, hey, I'm noticing I'm showing up and you're not showing up. Like, I don't feel your presence. I don't feel your attention. When I text you, it takes a day to get back. And I have certain things I need to know that you're present with me. Do you want to do that? And you're like, yeah, I want to do that. And so like you give him another chance. He doesn't show up, and just like, hey, this is the second time. I'm just not feeling you. And if this relationship doesn't work for you, that's fine. But that's where most women be like, I got to grasp, or I'm afraid of being alone, or I invested 6 months in this relationship, and so I'm willing to accept the good, where good is the enemy of great. And then people accept mediocrity rather than setting the standard of what they need to feel met in a relationship. And that's the greatest gift women have given to me, is be like, hey buddy, this isn't working for me for X, Y, and Z. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not really interested. Thanks, that was fun. Other times, like, I'm so grateful that you educated me on what you need. It happens with Morgan all the time. Like, she's constantly surprising me on new things she needs. And I'm so happy when she tells it to me, because I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Okay, let's play and let's adjust and let's find this out so I can go deeper and deeper. And that education is so priceless.
Yeah. And like it is. And what you're saying sounds so simple. And yet if we're not grounded in really knowing our value, like I'll speak as a woman who, it took me such a long time to just get to a place where I could believe that if a man like wasn't showing up, it didn't mean that it was something I was doing wrong.
Yeah. That's the trick women play on themselves. That's the bear trap their feet are stuck in. And that's the benefit of me at 47. Like I said, at 30, I was totally clueless, numb and dumb, didn't understand my self-validation, and that's been the journey I've been on. And now it makes me a better friend. It makes me a better partner. It makes me a better business coach. Because, like, from a business point of view, if I'm selling because I'm worried about you getting the deal so I can pay my rent, then I'm going to do everything I can, sacrifice my integrity to get the gig. But if I have the rent covered and I can sell from you from surplus or non-attachment, that's the best place to be. Now, sometimes in business, you got to do what you got to do, and you can be forthright about that or do a sale or something. But if we're trying to hide that part of ourselves where we're selling something to pay the rent, that'll come across.
There's a piece that I want to speak to here. So I've been facilitating a lot of co-ed intimacy groups, and the focus is, how do we create a new baseline for intimacy? Meaning, like, we're embodying like a depth of intimacy that when we walk around, people can feel it, and we actually invite people into like our level of intimacy, our level of depth. And what I've been noticing is, like, let's say that you and I are flirting, Rob. And
hypothetically,
and I'm in this place of, or let's make you the good guy and me the bad guy, okay, or you the deep person and me the not deep person. Okay. So let's say that I'm kind of like insecure in myself, or kind of insecure with intimacy, and you flirt with me in a way where you're really holding a certain depth. You're like, oh my God, I can really connect with you here in a way that feels super nourishing and yet slightly terrifying because I'm being seen. So in that moment, because I have the discomfort, I kind of pop out of that. And that can look like a variety of different things. It can look at me kind of like just walking away from you, or saying something sarcastic, saying something, what? Huh?
Or getting mad.
Yeah. Something that, if you weren't secure in the depth that you were holding, you could take it personally, or you could jump out of intimacy also. And the thing that I want to speak to is, like, especially when we're cultivating new depths of intimacy and creating a new baseline for ourselves, there's kind of this courageous act that we can take of holding the depth, even when a person wants to jump out of it. Because if we shake and falter when this person jumps out, and the intimacy is lost, and this person has no trust that the intimacy was there in the first place. But it's like, if we can hold this baseline, even when the person gets uncomfortable, and stay steady, so they see that it's still there, then we're giving this person the opportunity to sink back into a deeper layer with us. But it requires a courage. And I feel like this, like if I was inviting the people listening on this call to do one thing, it would to like take the courageous action of holding yourself, like allow yourself to be intimate and vulnerable and stay there, even if another person gets uncomfortable and wants to jump away. And it is a practice holding this new level of intimacy and vulnerability. And the only way we get comfortable in it is by like letting ourselves feel like not met there, but continuing to walk that path.
Yeah. So if like I was flirting with you, hypothetically, and I knew you were a runner, hypothetically, then I could flirt with you, and instead of trying to contain you, I would actually increase the size of the playing field so you could run around and I would just be there waiting. Hi, how's it going? How you doing?
Yeah.
And then wait for you to come back. That's a master player. But if I am not feeling comfortable and confident in myself and grasping for the runner, then the game won't go anywhere.
Yes, it makes me think of our friend Nicole Daedone once said to me, you know, I'm like thinking of it as like putting out a saucer of milk for the cat.
Yep.
Where it's like there's this nourishment there. The cat doesn't even have to come into the house or knock, but it just knows that it's sitting there and that they can come and drink the sweetness without feeling like they're attached or required to stay.
Yep. I think we're running out of time.
We are running out of time.
I'm watching the time. Don't you worry. I got it handled.
Thank you for handling it, darling.
Yeah. All right. So we're leaving the saucer of milk out for the world. And we're waiting. We have the Arielle Flirting campaign possibility.
Oh, goodness.
And then we have a show next week, which is Masculine, Feminine, and Integrity.
Yep. And I'm going to be holding the container for this one, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We'll put Rob in his feminine.
In my handcuffs. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on this dialogue with me. It's truly awesome. I like how this is going.
I do too. And it's letting me look at how I can be even more vulnerable on camera. It's confronting. So thank you for making me uncomfortable. Well,
that's my pleasure. I absolutely love making you uncomfortable.
Thank you.
All right. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. For more replays, you can go to tufflove.live/6SIX. And I'll be back next week on Monday night at 6 p.m. for a show on masculine, feminine, and integrity. Thank you so much.